Emma always tucked her diary beneath her mattress, hidden beneath textbooks and an old sweatshirt no one would bother moving. But tonight, when she reached for it, the sweatshirt was crumpled to the side, and the diary lay slightly askew, unervingly out of place. Her fingers trembled as she flipped through the pages, her stomach dropping, when she found the corner of one sheet bent down, mocking her. The entry was from last week, a late-night confession of her deepest fear being erased, replaced, forgotten. The words seemed darker, heavier, as if whispered back to her. She glanced at Lily, lounging on her bed with earbuds in, oblivious. Emma's lips pressed into a thin line. Had Lily snooped? But the diary had a tiny lock, and the key never left Emma's necklace. She checked the clasp, still secure, no sign of forced entry, yet the air in the room felt thick, pressing against her skin like unseen hands. The temperature had dropped too, her breath visible in the dim light of her bedside lamp. That night, sleep wouldn't come. The silence was too loud. Every rustle of sheets, every creak of the dorm's aging pipes made her flinch. Just as she drifted off, a cold breeze brushed her neck, though the window was shut. Her eyes flew open. Across the room, Lily's bed was empty. Panic spiked, until the bathroom door clicked open and Lily shuffled back to bed yawning. Emma exhaled, but the dread clung to her. Something was wrong. The diary, the air, the way Lily's shadow stretched too far across the floor for just a moment before snapping back into place. By morning, she almost convinced herself she'd imagined it. Almost, but the diary, when she checked again, felt warmer than it should have. Like a living thing, waiting. The whispers started on the third night after Emma found her diary disturbed. At first, she thought it was the wind or a faucet left dripping, but the sound was too deliberate, soft, muffled voices curling out from the depths of her closet like smoke. Every night at midnight, they came, threading through the silence with words she couldn't quite decipher. Emma would lie frozen in bed, her fingers clutching the edge of her blanket, too afraid to move. The diary remained on her desk, seemingly untouched, yet each morning she found new entries scrawled across its pages in a looping script that mimicked her own. The words detailed her innermost thoughts. Things she'd never written down, things she'd only ever whispered to herself in the dark. She confronted Lily one evening, her voice shaking as she held up the diary. "Did you do this?" Lily blinked at her, confusion knitting her brows together. "I don't even know where you keep that thing," she said, but her gaze lingered on it a second too long. Then, as Lily turned away, Emma saw it. Her roommate's eyes flickered, the irises swallowing the whites for a single, impossible moment. Black as ink. Emma's breath hitched, but when she blinked, Lily's eyes were normal again, wide with concern. "You look exhausted," Lily said, reaching out to touch her shoulder. Emma flinched. That night, the whispers grew louder, more insistent. Emma pressed her ear to the closet door and caught a single, chilling phrase, "If we see you." She stumbled back, her heart hammering. When she checked the diary, another entry had appeared. "You'll never be rid of me." The words were in her handwriting, but Emma didn't remember writing them. Worse, the ink looked wrong, too dark, too thick, like something had bled onto the page. Sleep refused to come. Every creak of the dormitory floorboards sent a jolt through her. Lily's steady breathing from the other side of the room only made it worse. Because for the first time, Emma wondered if her roommate was really asleep at all. The bathroom light flickered as Emma leaned over the sink, splashing cold water on her face. When she straightened up, her breath caught in her throat. The reflection staring back wasn't hers, not quite. Its mouth stretched into a grin too wide for any human, teeth sharp like splintered glass. The eyes were hers, but blacker, emptier, as if something had scooped out the light behind them. The reflection's lips moved, but no sound came out. Emma recoiled, knocking over a bottle of shampoo. When she looked again, the mirror showed only her own terrified face, pale, but normal. She convinced herself it was exhaustion, stress, the whispers from the closet, the diary's shifting pages, it was all getting to her. But back at her desk, the diary lay open, though she'd sworn she'd closed it. A new sentence marred the paper, jagged and deliberate. "I'm you, but better." The ink wasn't ink, it was rust brown, flaking when she brushed it. Blood. Her stomach lurched. The handwriting was hers. Wasn't it? That night, she wedged a chair under the doorknob and clutched a pocket knife under her pillow. Sleep came in fitful bursts. At 3 a.m., she jolted awake to the sound of paper rustling. The diary was on her nightstand, pages fluttering as if in a breeze. But the air was still. When she grabbed it, the pages fell open to a sketch of herself, her throat slit in precise, ink, black lines. The rendering was meticulous, detailed, and in the corner, barely visible, Lily's silhouette watched from the shadows, her smile a slash of graphite. By morning, Emma's hands wouldn't stop shaking. She traced the sketch with a trembling finger. The paper was slightly damp, like the blood hadn't fully dried. Emma flipped through the diary with trembling hands, her breath coming in short, ragged gasps. Pages were missing. Whole sections torn out or simply gone, as if they had never existed. In their place were sketches, crude but horrifyingly detailed, depicting her in scenes of escalating violence. One showed her lying in a bathtub, wrists slit, the water stained red. Another portrayed her dangling from the ceiling fan, a noose around her neck. The most chilling was a drawing of her frozen in mid-scream, a shadowy figure looming behind her with a knife. And in every sketch, without fail, Lily stood in the background, her expression unreadable but her eyes, always her eyes, locked onto Emma with eerie focus. Emma's pulse pounded in her ears as she traced the jagged edges of the missing pages. She tried to recall what had been written there, but her mind felt foggy, fractured. Had she described her fear of drowning? Had she ever written about her childhood nightmare of being hanged? She couldn't remember, and that terrified her most of all. The diary wasn't just predicting her fears, it was reshaping them, twisting her memories into something grotesque. That night Emma jolted awake to the sound of paper rustling. The diary lay open on her desk, its pages fluttering as if touched by an unseen hand. She approached cautiously, her skin crawling. A new sketch greeted her, Emma, eyes wide with terror, reaching for a doorknob that wouldn't turn. Beneath it, scrawled in that familiar, mocking handwriting, were the words, "Running only makes it worse." Emma's breath hitched. She didn't remember drawing this. She didn't remember writing that. A soft giggle echoed from the closet. Lily's voice, but distorted, dripping with malice. Emma spun around, but the room was empty. When she looked back at the diary, another page was gone. In its place, a fresh sketch. Emma staring into a mirror, her reflection grinning back with too many teeth, her sanity frayed at the edges. The line between the diary's horrors and her own mind blurred until she couldn't tell where one ended and the other began. The diary wasn't just watching her, it was becoming her. Emma's fingers trembled as she turned the lock on her dorm room door, the metallic click doing little to ease the dread coiling in her stomach. The diary lay on her desk, its leather cover cracked and worn, though she couldn't remember it ever looking so ancient. She hadn't opened it, hadn't even touched it, since the night before, when the whispers from her closet had grown so loud they'd drowned out her own thoughts. Yet, as she backed away, the diary's pages suddenly rustled, flipping open as if caught in an invisible wind. A cold draft swept through the room, extinguishing the desk lamp and plunging her into darkness. The only light came from the moonlight filtering through the window, casting long, claw-like shadows across the walls. From the diary's pages, a thick, inky smoke curled upward, twisting into the shape of a towering figure with hollow eyes and a grin too wide for any human face. It spoke, its voice a chorus of whispers, each word dripping with amusement. "You thought you could hide from me. I am the author of your fate, Emma. Every fear, every nightmare. I've written them all." Emma staggered back, her breath coming in ragged gasps. The figure, the keeper, stepped fully out of the diary, its form shifting like liquid shadow. Behind her the door handle jiggled violently, though no one stood on the other side. Then, a thud, a muffled voice. Lily's voice. Emma turned just in time to see her roommate slump against the doorframe, her eyes vacant, her lips moving in a broken mantra. "She's coming for you next. She's coming for you next." The keeper's laughter filled the room, echoing off the walls until Emma's skull ached. The diary's pages fluttered again, revealing a fresh entry. Written in her handwriting, but she hadn't touched a pen. The words blurred before her eyes, but one phrase stood out, searing itself into her mind. "Tonight, you meet your end. The shadows lunge." Emma screamed, but no sound came out. The last thing she saw was the keeper's smile widening as the world dissolved into ink and darkness. Emma's hands trembled as she turned the final page of the diary, the paper cold against her fingertips. The words were etched in jagged, frantic strokes, the ink dark and wet as though freshly written. The entry detailed her death. The way her breath would hitch, the way her fingers would claw at the floor as something dragged her into the mirror. The description was so vivid, she could almost feel the pressure around her throat, the creeping dread as her vision darkened. A gust of wind howled through the room, though the windows were shut tight. The keeper's laughter slithered from the walls, a sound like cracking bones and rustling pages. The mirror across from her flickered, and Emma's reflection didn't move when she did. Instead, it grinned, its teeth too sharp, its eyes pools of ink. Slowly, it raised a hand and pressed it against the glass. The surface rippled like water, and Emma stumbled back as the reflection stepped forward, peeling itself free with a wet, tearing sound. It clutched the diary to its chest, its smile widening until the corners of its mouth split. Emma's breath caught. The diary's cover was different now, older, the leather cracked and stained with something dark. "It was mine before it was yours," the reflection whispered, its voice a twisted echo of her own. Emma's mind raced, fragments of memories rearranging themselves. Late nights she didn't recall staying awake, pages she didn't remember writing. The diary had always been in her possession, hadn't it? The reflection laughed, soft and mocking. As the truth slammed into her, the diary had chosen her, not the other way around. She had never been the author. She had been the story all along. The keeper's presence thickened the air, the shadows stretching toward her like grasping hands. Emma turned to run, but the door was gone, replaced by a smooth, unbroken wall. The reflection advanced, the diary creaking open on its own, its pages fluttering like wings. The last thing Emma saw was her own face smirking down at her, before the darkness swallowed her whole. Lily's recovery was swift, but wrong. The doctors dismissed her catatonic state as exhaustion, a nervous breakdown from the stress of finals. But when she opened her eyes, they were no longer the warm hazel they'd always been. They were black, glossy pools reflecting nothing. She smiled for the first time in days, a slow, knowing curl of her lips that sent a chill down the spines of anyone who saw it. The nurses whispered about how odd it was, how her pupils seemed to swallow the light. But Lily just laughed, a sound like rustling pages, and asked for her things. Back in the dorm, Lily knelt beside Emma's empty bed. The sheets still rumpled from her frantic struggle the night she vanished. The diary lay on the nightstand pristine, as if it had never been touched. Lily ran her fingers over the cover, her smile widening. Inside, the pages were no longer filled with Emma's frantic scribbles. Fresh ink glistened, forming new entries in a handwriting that wasn't quite Lily's, wasn't quite Emma's, but something in between. The words pulsed alive, as if waiting to be read aloud. A knock at the door startled her. Well, not her, not really. The new roommate, a nervous freshman named Sarah, peeked inside. "Is this room through 7? She asked, clutching her suitcase. Lily's grin stretched impossibly wide. "Yes," she said, tucking the diary under her pillow. "Welcome home." That night, as Sarah slept, the diary slid from its hiding place and fell open. The first page curled, as if beckoning. And somewhere, deep in the dark, something whispered Sarah's name. The cycle had begun again. The diary was hungry, and this time it wouldn't wait long.